Okay, so welcome to part 3 of our substitutions, where we actually start working through the sample problem. From the previous video, you should have copied down this information in front of you, and then also have the list of the 8 steps in front of you as well. And so just to make note that we understand clearly what we've got going on, is this step 1 from our list of 8 or 9 steps from the first video is to find the animal's nutrient requirements. So step 1 is met. That's in our table. Then we needed to look up our feed composition. So that is step 2. That is information we all know how to find in our feed library, wherever else we're at, whether it's the Noble Library or the textbook itself. We understand that's where we're at. So we've got steps 1 and 2 done. Now the next step is to actually take a look at what that step 3, that major feed contributor. So be sure, like I mentioned, to have this data table in front of you as we work through this example, because I'm going to have to bounce back and forth to a whiteboard. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this major feed, which is the Bahia grass pasture, and figure out how many pounds of TDN, protein, calcium, and phosphorus that sheep is getting. So let's set up step 3. And so this is looking at the major feed. Alright, so as we take a look at this, we saw that our sheep's dry matter intake was 6 pounds per day. So we're going to assume all of that dry matter intake is coming from forage. Because first off, our forage is our cheapest feed ingredient that we have for the ruminants. And so why add another feed if we don't need to? So we always want to check and see where our deficiencies are at. So we're going to take a look and figure out what we've got. So we're going to take our dry matter in pounds is going to be 6.0 pounds. We are going to figure out how many pounds of TDN, protein, calcium, and phosphorus is coming from, and I'm going to actually make this a little table so that we can follow the math a little bit easier. Okay? So we're going to be figuring out each one of these. So if I ask you and say an animal's eating 6 pounds of TDN, and we know that feed is 54% TDN. If you flip back to that table of the Bahia grass pasture, it's 54% TDN. So we know that if we take 6 times 0.54, that our animal is getting 3.24 pounds of TDN on a dry matter basis per day. So we're going to do that with each of our nutrients that animal is eating. Actually, let me change colors so we keep it clear here. 6 pounds times 9% protein. If you look back to our data, that Bahia grass pasture was 9%. So times 0.09, that gives us 0.54 pounds of crude protein per day on a dry matter basis that this sheep is eating. If we take a look at calcium, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be 6 pounds times 0.0046. Because if you look at the Bahia grass pasture, it's 0.46% calcium. So you still have to move the decimal place twice. And so that gives us 0.028 pounds of calcium per day. That's an 8 there in case you can't read that. And then finally we'll do the last one for phosphorus as well. And that's going to be 6 pounds of dry matter per day times the concentration of that Bahia grass, which is 0.0022. And that gives us that sheep is eating 0.013 pounds of phosphorus per day. And so we're able to find out from our major forage what are how much nutrient that animal is getting. So that's step 3. The major feed is contributing 3.24 pounds of TDN, 0.54 pounds of protein, 0.028 pounds of calcium, and 0.013 pounds of phosphorus per day. So make sure you're comfortable with those numbers, and then we're going to move on to step 4 in the next screen. So step 4, according to our list of 9 steps, is going to be, are the nutrient needs met? That's our question, because we want to know, do we have any deficiencies that need to be corrected? If so, which one? And how are we going to figure that out? So as we take a look at this, oops, sorry about that. We're going to take a look and take our supply, what is being supplied in the diet, minus the animal's requirement. That's going to tell us if we have a deficiency or an excess of that nutrient. So, for example, if we take the animal's TDN, I think that was orange according to our last screen. So if we bounce back to our previous screen, the animal's TDN amount or supply they were getting per day is 3.24. So if we take TDN, that animal's supply is 3.24. The requirement was 3.90 pounds per day. Again, go back to that original table. And so what we find out is that we have a deficiency of 0.66 pounds per day. So we do have a deficiency right here of TDN. So we will need to solve for energy for this sheep. Next, let's take a look at protein. And so that animal was getting 0.54 pounds of protein per day. So let's see if we are meeting our protein requirements. So 0.54 is the supply. Subtract the requirement, which is 0.78, and we find out that that animal is deficient 0.24 pounds of protein per day. Dang it, we've got energy and protein deficient. So if we take a look at our calcium requirement and our phosphorus requirements, we'll do the same thing. So for calcium, our supply was 0.028 from the previous slide, and that animal requires 0.030. So what we find out is we have a deficiency here as well of negative 0.002 pounds per day. So we have a deficiency in calcium. And let's check phosphorus. That supply was 0.013. The animal requires 0.017. Sure enough, we have another deficiency, because that's the example I worked up here, of 0.004 pounds per day. So basically, all 4 nutrients are deficient. So what we're going to need to do is, this is where it's important to understand. Let's break it down. We're going to solve for energy first. We've got to meet our energy needs first. Then we'll check to see, once energy needs are met, we'll substitute with our energy feed and kind of go from there and see if that helps fix, because a lot of times you fix one nutrient, you fix several others. And so it's probably not going to take all the feeds that we've got listed to be able to do this problem. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video here at step 4. We're going to pick up in the next video at step 5, solving for the net gain as we add in our energy feed. Feel free to review this as we work through this example.